This is Leslie Walker Hirsch for Glass Alliance, New Mexico. Today I have the great pleasure to speak with Jerry Silverstein, also known as Mr. Maestro, because Jerry's in charge of the Glass Alliance Maestro program. That's a program where he invites talented maestros in glass to come to Santa Fe and show their works of art and tell their life stories and sometimes even share some of their special techniques with the attendees at the Maestro events. Jerry is also one of the foremost glass art collectors in all of New Mexico. He was raised in Chicago and spent his days there as a counseling psychologist and administrator for a not for profit. So we're really glad to have you here today, Jerry. How are you?
I am great, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this.
So, Jerry, I'm going to take off my glasses now. Vanity over sanity every time. So, Jerry, how did glass art capture your soul and your imagination?
Well, I always was a collector of one thing or another, and it would be through travels. I'd pick up souvenirs, or I would go to glass art fairs or other art fairs and like different objects, baskets, and wood objects, masks, and eventually decided I really was intrigued with glass. So that became my next uh, point of collection.
So, so, Jerry, what did you start out collecting? How did you begin your collection?
Well, I started out uh, in my visits as when I worked, I would go to conferences in New York, and I would then become familiar with the various houses in New York, their showrooms for Baccarat, Aurifors, Steuben, etc. And I would always find small pieces of work, which I adored. I loved the feel of it. I loved to look at it, and I would take it with me, and I would bring it home from the airports in New York City, often having, because it is crystal glass, it would go through the radar, and I'd have to unpack everything and have the security people look at it.
And so you started with small pieces, but now that you're in a big house and in the wide open spaces in the Southwest, you can collect bigger, better, more pieces, right?
Well, I can certainly refocus on what I collect, because after I collected those smaller pieces, I got interested in paperweights and became involved with paperweight groups and met a lot of paperweight collectors and gallerists. And for quite a few years, that's all I collected was paperweights. And then a friend of mine who worked for a gallery in Chicago, it was a glass gallery, and she invited me to come to the gallery to look at the work. And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I think you would enjoy it." And I said, "Okay, but I know what your prices are, and I can't afford that." So she brought me in, and I took one look at what was in that gallery, and I got hooked. Been collecting that kind of studio art now since about 2000.
Wow. So, Jerry, for readers and listeners who aren't totally familiar with the Maestro program, can you tell a little bit about it and maybe share your secret about how you convince famous artists to come to Santa Fe and talk to us?
Well, I go to conventions, I go to shows, I go to galleries, openings, and I do meet artists. And sometimes I just Google, somebody will give me a name, and I'll check out their website, and see if it's something that I think might be of interest to our members. And I've become really friendly with many of these artists, and we try to work out a calendar schedule that accommodates them as well as our schedule.
So, and of course, Santa Fe is an allure just in and of itself.
It is a attraction. I don't have to sell Santa Fe, and I also tell them about the various galleries that we have, and many of them are galleries that represent uh, famous glass artists. So it's a win-win situation for the artists to come here, meet our group, and perhaps even get carried by one of the local galleries.
Amazing, amazing. So, who is the first maestro that you ever invited here?
Well, this was back in 2009, and so it's 10 years. And he was a local. He was from Powaki, which is kind of suburban Santa Fe, and his name was Joey Reich. He was very interested in gaining a little attention here, and he was able to uh, hold an event at his hot shop, and so we invited people to come, and that was the very first experience I had with an artist.
Interesting. Now, Jerry, it's come to my attention that you and Glass Alliance have now hosted 100 glass maestros. What does that tell you about glass art in New Mexico and in particular Santa Fe?
Well, it's like 100 plus at this point, and over 1,000 attendees at our events. And I think in and of itself tells us that people are interested in glass. And of course, they like to come to our events to meet our maestros. They like to talk to the artists. Some of our people are collectors, some of them are artists, and some just like to uh, hear about the process of making glass. So
So
that's how I make that work.
it does, it works for everyone. So, Jerry, I asked you to pick out a work of glass art from your collection, and I can't wait to see what you chose. So, can you show it to us and then tell us why you picked that one out?
This is a piece that is sort of bowl shaped, and it's a flame work or lamp work piece that was designed and made by a well-known glass artist, Carrie Russell Poole. And she uses a flame torch to make all these beautiful flowers and leaves and stems, and was actually a maestro here quite a few years ago, and lives out on the East Coast.
And what is it that you especially like about that piece?
I like the intricacy of it. I like flame work, and I think she's one of the outstanding artists that do that. Um, it's also not as fragile a piece as it looks, although I wouldn't want to drop it. Uh,
No,
and it's a kind of a unique way of working with glass.
it is beautiful. So, Jerry, thank you so much for spending a little time with us this morning and telling us a little about your collection and your bio of how glass fascinated you. We'll see you at the next Maestro event.
Thank you, Leslie.
Bye bye.
I